Hello guys and welcome to Agency Tutorials, the most interesting and compelling way to study with Sihlang. In this episode we are going to do a real college assignment which is based on pseudocodes, right? But with the subtopics of arrays, methods and classes, right? So I'm going to explain what is it that is needed of you so that you can get the highest grade, and I'm going to try to do some of the questions for you, but the rest you'll have to figure it out on your own. So remember that this is based on what? On pseudocode, meaning that we're going to have to write English-like statement which represent real codes, right? So let's get right on to it.
Okay guys, so this is what we did last week, right? This is the program of the first question, right? So I'm not going to explain this because I did explain it in class the other day, right? So those who are not in class, they just have to copy this and make few changes because you cannot submit the same thing, all of you, right? So this is the code for the first question, right? So I'm going to move on to the second question, then I'll start explaining from there. Pause the video if you still want to write this and so forth, right? Because I don't want the video to be too long. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the second question now. Okay, this is the second question, right? Let's move it right here. I'm using a Microsoft whiteboard. So yeah, you have started a farming, that's farming, right? Farming project of rearing different breeds of cattle you will be selling. The price of your cattle differs according to two key factors. That's like a hint which gives you that okay, there will be two factors, namely the breed and the weight as shown in the table. Figure 1 shows the breeds you specialize in, right? You specialize in Angus, Hereford, whatever that one is, and Bragas and Braham and Chianina or whatever. Okay, now you are asked, suggest a technique that can be used to represent the above table in programming, right? Okay, the first thing to do would be for you to understand that I'm gonna write something somewhere here. Let me change the right here, right? The breed is what is a string, and the prices are what? Are numbers or integers, right? So that's the first thing to understand. Therefore, in an array cannot store like a list of things, like a list of names or numbers, right? It cannot mix two data types. It cannot yeah, not like that, but what the fuck, cannot, right, mix two data types, right? Because we have two data types, 1 and 2, right? So it cannot mix them. They cannot exist in one array. So which means that you must have two different arrays, right? The first one will be for the breed, right? The second one for the prices. But even the prices have their ranges, right? There will be the one which is less than 500, right? Less than 500 kilogram, right? The other one which is 500 kilogram to what? To 800, right? That's the second one. So which means that you will have an array which will declare the breed, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4 arrays which will declare the prices. Am I clear? The first one will declare the one which is less than 500 kilogram. The second one, the one which is 500 kilogram to 800 kilogram, right? The third one from 800 kilogram to 1100 kilogram, and then the fourth one greater than That's the last one. You'll have to declare 1,500 so kilogram, right? So each and every one of them, the first breed, right? Let me make some space. No, we don't want to delete one, to make some space. There we go. Now the first one, right? The first one of the breed can either be written this way. You will say the name of your array is breed, but in order to make it more specific, you have to specify that it is a string, right? Then the name of the array would be breed, right? So now we are given the names of the breed. We are also given the numbers, right? So we're just gonna write this like that. We could write the number of the elements, but there's no need. The program will know that where once you specify them how many they are, right? Because you already know them. So in order to specify the first name of the breed, which is a string, right, we have to use double quotation like this, Angus, right? That's the first one, and the first one we find in subscript number 0, right? It will be found in subscript number 0. The second one, which will be this one, will be found in subscript number 1. This one number 2. This one number 3. This one number 4. This one number 5. I hope that we're clear. And also the first price which I have declared, right? I named it num price less than 500 kilogram, right? This one will be found on subscript number 0. This one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meaning that if I want to output the name of the breed in subscript number 0 and the price of that breed, I just have to say, or do this. I'll go a little bit up. I just have to say, using a pseudocode, right? I'll just say output, right? The name, right? We said it is found in subscript number 0. So we just say breed, then you specify the subscript 0, right? Plus, what subscript is that? It's called, what's the name of the array first? Price less than, I'm gonna continue here, or maybe I should make it more visible. Okay, because this one has unlimited space. Okay, output breed 0 plus price less than is it 500? Is it 500? It has to be 500. Let's check. It's less than 500 kilogram. It is, right? So where is it found? On subscript number 0. So the output will be something like, is it Brangus the first one? I'm not sure, but it is, oh, Angus and 4,000, right? So it's gonna be Angus and the 4,000, the output. That's it. When you are asked to output both of them, but when you are asked to output only the Angus, you're gonna use this. When you are asked to output the 400, you're gonna use the name of the array plus the index, right? That's more like it, right? But you also have to state what kind of an array are you using, right? I just wrote array here, arrays, right? I just wrote arrays. There's an array, but maybe sometimes you have to be specific whether you are using a 2-dimension array or, I'm gonna write it there, a 1-dimension array. that's what you will specify if there's a need to, right? But as for me, I just wrote arrays because whatever, right? But as for you, you can specify whether you're going to use a one-dimensional array or a two-dimensional array. And remember, in two-dimensional array, it uses how many subscript? Two subscript, two of them to what? To identify one element in an array. Two subscript to identify one element in an array, right? It doesn't identify two different elements, one element of the same data type. That is very important. If you didn't hear what I'm saying, you can always pause and rewind the video, right? Okay, now I have declared 1 and 2 of them for you, right? You can change the name of the array. You can name this one whatever name you want to name, but it must have an association with the question, right? So now you have to name 3 more here. They have to be 5. You need 3 more. For what and what? The 3 more will represent this, that, and that, because these ones are not declared yet. So it's your job to declare these ones and write the values which you have been given inside. Since this one is a number, you don't put double quotations, you don't put anything, right? But if it was an what is it called, a character, this is how you declare a character. If it was a character and the name of the array is the data type, right, then we say grade, right? And you are supposed to come up with what? You're supposed to come up with let me see. You're supposed to come to specify the values within the array, right? Now you have the values in your imagination, right? So you're gonna say equals to, right? Now the first value, you only put one quotation like this is A, the second one can be B, and so forth, right? I'm just showing you that it is the 3 data types have a different way of being declared within an array, right? If it is a string, you put double quotation like that. If it is a number, nothing, no quotations. But if it is a character or a letter or a symbol, right, you put one quotation. I just wanted to clear that up. Okay, now we go to the next question, right? Write a pseudocode of a program that prompts a user to enter 2 numeric numbers, right? So this program must prompt the user to enter how many numeric numbers? 2 numeric numbers. Let me not delete that. I think I have enough space down there. Okay, the program will accept how many numbers? 2. User input, right? User entered 2 numbers, which means this one will be user input. It will take how many numbers? 2 of them. Only 2 numbers. Now the application passes the values to intent to the following method. Passes, right? Since it has to pass the values, therefore we must use arguments or actual parameters. Actual parameters, right? I'm not going to write the entire name. Parameters, right? I'm gonna explain further what are arguments and actual parameters and so forth. The method that computes and displays the sum of the 2 numbers. So how many methods we'll have for now is 1. The one which will compute the sum. Okay, the next one, a method that computes the difference between the 2 numbers and return the results to the calling method program for displaying, right? The second one will be the one which will compute the difference. That's method number 2, which will compute the difference. And then method number 3, look, we're still on B. Return the calling method program for displaying, right? Therefore there must be a method which it will return the the value after computing, right? And it is a display method. So the method number 3 will be the display method, right? 3. An overload of method 1. Therefore, this method will be overloaded. Therefore, we'll have the fourth method, which will overload sum. So we're gonna have a total of how many methods? 4, right? I think that's clear. No, don't worry, I'll explain everything. I was just outlining the obvious for now, right? So we're gonna go to the code now. I'm gonna take you to the code. Okay, I hope that everything is clear, right? It's visible. Good. Okay, now this is the main method. From here all of this is the main method, right? So as we know that in Java, in ADF, or when you're writing a pseudocode, you always start with start, right? Then this is optional. You can write the main, or to show that this one is the main method or not. It's optional, right? Optional. Now it's up to you whether you write it or not. Now declarations, we're gonna declare the sum, which will calculate the sum, right? And this will be used by the first method. And then the difference, which will be used by the second or third method to calculate the difference, right? And then the numbers which you're gonna input. You're gonna input how many numbers? 2 of them. Therefore, we don't need an array for 2 numbers. We already know we're only gonna take how many numbers? 2 numbers. So we're gonna say num, the data type, then the variable name. The variable name is num and num1, right? So you're gonna prompt the user. This one is called what? A prompt. It's a message to the user, for the user, right? Now it says enter 2 numbers. It tells the user what to do, and the user is supposed to input how many numbers? 2 of them. So the first, this one will take the first user input, whatever number it will be, it will take it, right? And then this one will take the second number, whatever number it is, right? Done. Then we have our methods now. This is method number 1, which will add the values, right? Sub method, which means subscription method, or subscription, yeah, that's right, method, which will subtract the 2 numbers, right? The display method, which will display which will display the results of this method. Remember from the question, right? This one will display its own results, but this one will pass, or will return the value to the display method. And this one will be the add values method, which overrides the first method. Now there are a couple of ways to override a method, right? Let me explain this, then I'll explain arguments and parameters first, right? What happened? Shit, this thing just deleted everything. Okay, now good. Okay, now we have. Okay, now I was explaining overload, right? To overload a method, you need to write the name of the method as it is. As you can tell that these 2 methods have the same name, which is add values, right? But the number of parameters or arguments differ, right? This one has how many arguments? The ones inside the brackets, how many are they? 2. You see, this one has how many? 1. It has been overridden, because now at the first one there were 2, but now they are 1. So it has been overridden, right? The first one to override the method is the number of arguments, right? The number of arguments. Now there were 2, now there are 1. It has been overridden, right? Because now it only has 1. But what if there were 2 here and now they become 3? Yes, that's also another way to override a method, right? We can say add small capital letter A values like this, and then we say there's n, n1, n2. That's also a way to override the method, because here it had 2 arguments or actual parameters, and now it has how many? 3. 1, 2, 3. So the method has been what? Overridden. The other way is to change the data type of the arguments. Let's say this data type was like, I'm making an example to explain the other way. There are 4 ways, but I'm gonna explain only 2 of them, right? Add values, right? Like this. It had a string and then a num. Let me make some space. And the num like that, for number. And just say it is what? It is an ID. Like that. Now, to override this method, we want to exchange the data type, right? So we can say add. That's another way to override a method, or to overload, not override, overload the method. Values, right? So this one is a string, this one is a number, right? You can change the data type to overload it. Now want this to become a float? No, let's say this one remains the same. It's a string, right? N. But the number, want it to become a float, not an integer anymore, right? So we can say float ID. So now it has been overridden. The data type has been changed. It has been overloaded. Hey, I keep on saying overridden. It has been overloaded, pardon me, because we have changed the data type. So that's another method. For the rest of them, you can go to Google and say method overloading. Then it will give you almost the four other ones in more explanation. Okay, now I'm gonna move on, right? Oh, this one concept I need to explain. Okay, now we're here. Now these values, right? When the user enter the first value, right? Maybe it is a 3 and a 6, right? The first one is a 3, the second one is a 6, right? It's called what? Arguments, right? Then it will pass them to this method, right? 3 and 4, and this one will accept the values, right? This one accept what? The values. And the one which accept the values is called what? A formal parameter. The one which accepts the values is called what? A formal parameter. But the values itself are called what? Argument or actual parameters. I hope that we're clear with that. I hope I did make sense there, right? Now we go on. Now here, this method will only do what? Will only compute the sum, right? Only what? Compute the sum. So it will say 3 plus 6. Then after that it will output the sum, right? That's the first method. As for the one which will do the subscription, yes, subscribing or whatever, and the one which will display, you will have to write it on your own, because it is simple. I have showed you how to write a method which will add the values, right? So which means you just have to put a minus here, and the name has to be subscript values, right? And you have to specify the data type inside, just like this one. You have to make few changes of that method, right? Because I cannot write everything for you, otherwise I'll be in trouble or something or more, right? So we go on now. Add values. Now this one is the method to override the first one, right? So now we have overridden the method because it used to have how many arguments? It used to have 2 arguments, but now it has how many arguments? 1 argument, right? Okay, now we have already overridden the method, right? Now the next thing for us to do would be to do the calculations, right? Now we're here, right? So it had how many arguments? 1. It had 2, but now it has 1, which means it has been overloaded. I keep on saying overridden. Shit, that's a different topic, and today we are not discussing that. We are discussing method overload. Okay, now num, this one is it will overload yes the method, right? So after overloading the method, we created a method to do what? To do the calculations, right? As I have specified here with my statement, right? A method used to compute the whole numbers from 1 to n, the first number. So let's say the first number was 5, right? So where there is n, there is a 5. So num, this one is a method to do the calculations, right? Num, sum of numbers from n, from 1 to n. Here there's what? There's a 5, right? So num total is equal to 0. So we initialized or declared, we declared an integer of a variable called total, right? And initialize it to 0, right? That's what this means, right? Which means total is equal to 0. Then we need a for loop to do the calculation for us from 1 to n. Here is what? There's a 5. Now for num is equal to count. So num is equal to count. Count is equal to 1, as we were told that from 1 to n, which means from 1 to 5. All the numbers must be added, right? So we're gonna say total is equal to total. What is total? Total is 0. Remember, we initialize it to what? To 0 plus count, and count is what? Count is 1. Remember? No, it will increment, it will run the first time, right? Where count is equal to 1, and then the second time count will be what? Count will be 2. Third time count will be 3. Fourth 4. Fifth 5, until count is equal to n. Then it will end the for loop, right? But it will keep on adding these numbers. It will say 0 plus 1, then run again for the second time. Then it says 1 plus 2, then it gives you the answer, and so forth. 2 plus but it is not 2 now, it is 3, since we're here, right? 3 plus 3, and so forth, adding all the numbers, these ones before the 5, right? And then the last one will add the 5 its own, but the loop will terminate as soon as it finds out that n, or count, is equal to 5. Is equal to 5, right? Then it will terminate. It will stop doing the loops. Now, then this one outputted the sum of the whole numbers from 1 to n. The first entered number, n is the first entered number. That's why I have specified here. Number is then the total. Then it will just, this one is just an output statement which will output the sum of the numbers from 1 to n, the first number which is entered by the user. I hope this was I hope my explanation was a bit clearer, but okay, let's move on. Object oriented, the last question, I think. Is it? Yes, it is the last question. Okay. Design a class named student record. Data fields include two string fields for student first name and username, and numeric fields for student number and level of education, year 1, 2, or 3. Include methods to get and set values for each of the following. So okay, first thing to do for me to explain what is a class, right, or how to define a class. The first thing is to identify or name the visibility modifier, right? The visibility modifier. Is it like that? I don't know. If I'm wrong, then whatever. Okay, visibility modifier, right? Okay, since the visibility modifier, there are 4 of them. There's the default, private, public, and what is the other one? Private, public, default, and what? I've forgotten the other one, but what is it? I really don't remember the last one. I'll remember it along the way. So the default one is when you don't specify, when you did not specify your visibility modifier, the program will give it what? The default one, manually, or should I say automatically, right? It will give it that one, right? The private one, you will specify it. And what does private mean? Private means that the variable only allows access to change its value to methods or what else, objects in the same class, When you are outside the class, you cannot change its value. Access denied if it is outside the class, and this is the one which you're gonna focus on. Or the last one is protected, right? Okay, if you are outside the class, access denied, right? Denied. You don't have what? Access. But if you are inside the class, then you can change the variable's value, right? I hope that is clear. Public. For now, I'm not going to explain the other one. I'm only going to focus on this one, the private one, because it is related to your assignment. Now, to find out what is protected, what is public, and what is default, for more information, you can refer to Google. You will find them. Okay, now I have explained what is private, right? It's a variable which only allows access to change its value to methods or objects in the same class, in the same what? Class. Now, if you're outside the class, you do not have access unless you use special what? Methods. Now, these methods are called what? The getter method and the setter method. Now, these are the two methods which you can use to modify the value. I used to modify the value of a private variable, right? So that's like the simplest way to put it, right? Now I'm going to explain them one by one. What does each and every one of them do, right? The setter method, this is what it does. This is the one which will update, which will set or update the value. This one is responsible for changing the value, right? The value. That's its job. It just changes it, right? And it is void. It is what? It is void. What is a void? A void is something which returns nothing. Right? A void. It is empty. Void. There's nothing. It returns what? Nothing. That's what a void it is. And the setter method is what? Is a void because it returns nothing. It only sets or updates the value. That's it. That's what it does. Then the getter. The getter method. Right. The getter method reads the value. That's what it does. It just reads what? The value. Nothing more, nothing else. Which means this one has what? A return type. This one returns something. Right. This one what? Returns something. So that's what it does. But I haven't explained what a class is, right? A class is. I only explained AMA visibility modifier and the two special methods to have access on a private variable, right? Which are the setter and the getter. The setter will only set or update the value of the private method, and then the getter method will only read the value of the private method, and after it has read it, it has to return it. Clear enough? Lovely. Good. Now we move on. Let's make some space. Let's come here. Now, as I said, a class, right? What is a class? A class is a blueprint. Blue is like this, right? And print is a blueprint of objects. It's a blueprint of what? Of objects, right? What does this mean? What does this mean? Okay, let's say you want to build a house, right? When you want to build a house, you'll have a plan for the house. How many bedrooms the house will have, and the kitchen, the door, the window, and so forth, right? This is called what? The blueprint. The blueprint of the house. Could see how will the house behave? What will be the behavior of the house? How will the house look like? For instance, how many windows will the house have? How many doors? And how many bedrooms, bathrooms, and so forth, right? It's a blueprint. You're gonna follow it to build the house. So a class is related to the example of a house. It will control, or it states, right, the behavior. I don't know, there's a use someone, the behavior of the object. The objects, variables, yes, variables, and what else? Fields. Right, it will state the behavior of the variable, of the object, variables, and fields. Remember, we said that C++ and Java are what? Are object-oriented programming languages, right? If you don't know what is an object-oriented programming language, then I don't know what you have been doing, because I think that was the first chapter. That was the first chapter when you are introduced to C++, right? So that's what a class is. And then how to declare a class. What is the syntax for a class? So the first thing is the what? Is the visibility modifier. Visibility modifier. Then you have to specify that it is a class, the name class, and then the class name. You have to give it a name. What will be the name of your class, right? This one states that this one is a class. It has a capital letter C to say this one is a class. Then the visibility modifier, and then the name of your class. For instance, we can call it public with small letter T, with a small letter P, like that. Let's delete that. Let's start afresh. We're gonna say public, right? Then the class, the name class, to specify that this is a class with a capital letter what C. What will be the name of our class? Student underscore record. Then the class has been what? Defined or declared. As simple as that. You are done what? Declaring your class. Now we're gonna go to the question. Okay, the question says that we need to design a class, right? Data types include two string fields for student first name and surname, and the numeric fields for student number and level of education, which they have given us an example which is year 1 or year 2 or year 3. Include methods to get and set values for each of the fields. Create the class diagram and write the pseudocode to define it. So okay, we're gonna here. I hope that it is clear enough. If it is not, I can zoom in like this. Now two on your face. Okay, there. This one, I think it is perfect. Let's put it somewhere there. Okay, good. Now we have declared the class, right? I called it public. You can call it, but a class can never have a private modifier, I think. Yeah, so I've called it public, right? Or you cannot specify it if you wish, because this one is a pseudocode. I'm not sure about the curly brackets because this one is a pseudocode, but this is how it is done, right? Now we have declared the class, right? We called it student record as we were told, right? Variables with a private visibility modifier. Now I have made my variables to be private, right? Which means that if someone or something wants to access them outside the class, they have to use the getter and the setter method, which we have spoke about earlier on, right? So but within the same method, right, they can access them easily, right? You understand that? In the same class, not method, class, in the same class, they can access them without the getter and setter method. But in a different class, they must use the set and getter method. Okay. Now I have declared it as private string first name and surname because they have the same string. So I felt like it was going to be a waste of time for me to write private string again, then surname. So I just wrote it like that. Private num, which means integer, any number, right? Student number and level of study, ST for study, right? Okay, now set or update the value of the first name. So this one, I said that a setter method is always what? It's always a void. It returns what? What's the answer? Nothing, of course, nothing. It returns what? Nothing. Very good. Set first name. Now this one is a what? It's a formal. Is it formal or actual or what? I have someone formal, actual, or what? I'm not gonna tell you, so that's what it is. Now this one will be the one which is used to accept Remember, what did I say? When a parameter accepts something, it's called what? A formal parameter. But when the value which is passed, is called what? An actual parameter. I did explain this at the beginning, right? Okay, now we move on. Now, string student first name. So, and then the student first name is equals to first name, which means this one, when it accepts the value, it will assign it to this one, the first name, right? Then we go on. Reads the value of the first name. This one will just read the value because this one didn't return anything. It was a void, right? So this one will read it and return it. A return can be an output or something, right? So this one will only return what? The first name. If you want to output it, that's what it does, right? But the question says what? I have only made a setter negator of the student number and student first name, right? And the student number. I have only made 2 of them, right? And the question says that you should make one for all of them. Let me see if I'm correct. The question is far up. I've zoomed a lot, so it's gonna be a bit of a, yeah, there we are. Okay, include methods to get and set values for each of, you see, each, which means every one of this field, each, which means all of them, right? Now here, each, for all of them, right? Each, which means for the what is it called, the first name, surname, what else, student number, and level of education. They must all have the getter, sorter, the getter, the setter method, which means you will have 4 setter method and 4 getter method. But I have done how many for you? 2 each for you, to give you an idea of what is it. Too much. Let's go back a little bit, up, let's go up, there we go. Okay, now I have made one for you. I have made a setter method which for the student first name and a getter method for the student first name, right? And one setter method for a student number and one getter method for a student number, which means you have to come up with a setter method for the surname. Oh, why does it keep on going back? Because I need this to be visible enough so you guys can see what is going on. Okay, I need to, yeah, there we go. Now it won't give us any problems. So you have to create one for the surname, a setter method, right? And a getter method. Then the last one is the level of study. You have to have a setter for it and a getter for it. So you just have to copy this format, right, and put it somewhere from here going downwards, right? You can put it right there. Open and close it, as you know. As simple as that. Now, so since the string are private, if someone or something wants to modify the first name, student number, surname, or level of study outside the class, they have to use what? The setter and getter method, right? To do that, they need to create an object within that class, right? And I've used my example to be the main class, right? There we go. I have used what? A main class as what? As an example. So let me put it right here. So okay. Now we want to make changes to the values, right? The first name, student number, and so forth, right? Now The first thing when you are creating an object, right, of a class, right, you need to specify the class, the name of the class. The first thing is to write the name of the class which you are creating the instance or the object for, right? The name of what? Of the class. This one is an S, right? Then the next one will be the object name. This is a syntax for writing an object. Then here the last one will be to create the new object. You have to use the name new. This name is to create what? The new object. To create the new object, you have to use the name new, right? And then this one, the last one, you have to write the name of the class again, of the class which you are creating the object for, right? This one specified the name of the class, right? That's it. This one specified the name of the object. This one creates the new object, and this one creates the object for the name for the class. This one creates the object for the class. That's the syntax. It's a simple syntax which you can get on your notes once they have given them to you, or if you have them you can check them out, or you can go online, you'll find it the way I have specified it, right? Now, what is the name of the class which you want to create an object for? It's called what? Student record. That's the name of the class, right? So as I said, the name of the class should be the first one. Look, now there we are, student record. The object name, what is it called? It's called obj, right? That's the object name. This one is the name of the class, right? The class name. And this one is the name of the object. The name of the object, right? And this new creates what? The object, as I specified here. Oh, I deleted it. It's fine. Whatever. Right. So now this one creates the object for the class, right? Creates the object for the class object. Right. Now create an instance of a class. So the name instance and object, they are interchangeable. You can use them this way or that way. An instance means object, an object means instance. Good? Lovely. Now I'm gonna erase this. There we go. There we go. And this one, this thing doesn't wanna do. Okay, done. Now to set the name, since the first name was never set, right, we're gonna call the object name. The object name is called obj. So we're gonna say obj, the object name, right? Then we're gonna call the setter method for the name using what? That dot, this dot right here. We are calling what? The setter method using the dot. It's called what? A dot operator. It's called a dot operator. Right. I know you can see what I wrote there, but it's called what? A dot operator. Right. Let's just remove it. Done. Now we are calling the setter method from the class which it was. So it's called set first name, remember? Oh, do you want me to go back to show you that I'm telling you the truth? You see, set first name, right? Now back, set first name, right? So right here, where there, then it will keep on disappearing. Let me do that here, first name, right? And here set first name, we call it using the dot operator. You'll get to this part, don't worry, they will explain it further for you. Now I'm just giving you an idea of what is it that you need, right? Once we have called it, then we can specify the name inside the brackets which are used to accept the name, right? Now, oh yeah, I made a mistake here. This one is a setter, it's a getter method. I was meant to come here. There we go, my mistake has been rectified, right? And this one is called what? The formal parameter. Parameter, right? I don't know whether the spelling is correct, but anyway, so this one is called what? The formal parameter, because it will accept the value which is passed to it, right? And the value which will be passed to it will be what? Lwazi. You see, now it was private, right? Remember? But now, since we are using the getter, the setter method, we have the right or access to modify it using what? The setter method. Therefore, the first name of the student will become what? Lwazi. We are setting the value of the first name string, which is what? Which is private, using what? The getter method. The setter method, in fact, not getter, setter. Pardon me, setter method, right? We done with that? Good. Now, string output. So I just declared a string output so that when I want to output what is in the getter first name method, I just call in the output. I hope that it makes sense, right? Now, after that, the object, we're gonna call the object name. So the object name is called obj. Then after that, we're going to use the .NET operator, this one, to call the get first name method, right? This one. Now we're calling him. Now, after calling him, that's it. We're done. His job, he only has one job, to return the first name, because this one just set the name to be Lwazi, right? It just set or updated. Updated, right? That's what it did. It just updated it, right? Once that it is done, it doesn't return anything, because it is what? It is a void. So we want a return statement. We want it to return something. In order for it to return something, we need to use what? The getter method. So the getter method here, it is used to read the value of the first name. So once it has read the value of the first name, then it returns it, as you can say here. It returns what? The first name, which is what? Which is a string. That's why we've specified it at that time to say that it is what? It is a string. So it just returns or read the number, right? Now we want to output the number which it has returned or read, right? In order to do that, we just say output using the word output when we're writing a pseudocode. Then the first name of the student, these ones are in double quotation, which means that they will be printed out as they are, plus output. What did I say? The object or the variable which will contain the output, its name was going to be, I said it was going to be output, remember? Yes. Now we are going to use the name to output the name which is read by the get first name, the getter method, right? So this one will just output the first name. Done. As simple as that. Then we go to the next one. And now we want to set the student number. Wow. So we're gonna call the object name. There we go. Then we're gonna use the .NET operator to call what? The setter method. Remember, when you're calling a method, you have to use the method's name, right? It's set student number, just like we declared it up there, right? So now it will set what? The student number. To set the student number, we said it must be 2019 1 2 5 4 7 8. Now setting the value of the student number, it just set the value. It was private, right? So in order for us to have access on a private modifier, we need to use what? The setter method outside the class, right? This one is a main class, that one is what? Is a student record class. So it is outside, they are not in the same class. So we're going to use the setter and getter method to modify their values, right? Once the value is modified, then I declared a variable called number, right? Number output, number output, which will help me to output the value which is read by the getter method. First of all, I will say I'll specify the object which I want it to be called on, which is called, the object name is called obj, right? Dot get student number. So now we are calling the getter method with the dot operator. Now the student number, we have called the module. Once we have called the module which has read the student number, it will do what? It will read the student number and return it, right? So now we want to output the student number. Output the student number is as it is, as I said before, because it is in double quotation, it will be outputted as it is, nothing changes. Plus, when you want to add something else, you use plus. Number output, this one is the one which I have declared here to specify that when I want to output what is in the getter method, I will call this variable. So I called it here plus number output, which will output the student number. Then you have to do the same here. You're gonna say, let me erase this, technology is good, never disappoints. Okay, now we here what? Now let's say you want to create an object for, what is it, name, surname, right? So you're gonna say obj dot set surname. I'm just giving a direction of what else you need to do, right? Surname, then you're gonna specify the surname, putting it on double quotation. Let's say the surname is what else? What surname do you want us to use? Love, right? In quotation, in double what? Quotation, right? Then we close it. Then it has set what? The student surname, right? Just like that, it has set the student surname. Then now you're going to create the getter method to what? To return or to read the value, which is what? In love, and so forth. Just like just like I said, you need to create two more up there, getter method on the class on its own. Then you have to create two more objects here. The first one will be like this. Then you are gonna create the getter method again using this format, all these different formats. I hope that I was clear enough and you guys understood what is it that is needed of you. If not, you can comment on the comment section and let me know where are you having challenges. Then I will help where I can.
Since we have come to the end of our section, I hope that the video managed to give you some clarity. What is it that is expected of you? Of course it must, because I have given you proper examples and some answers, right? So if you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe and share. In fact, you should just subscribe since you have watched my video. I'm kidding. See you guys next time.